Hey guys, how you doing? This is Bobby Davis, the founder of Coder Founder, and here on a beautiful day in North Carolina and Kernersville, and tech capital of the world. It's a beautiful post-Memorial Day holiday. And I'll say hello to my friend Kevin Doyle, producer extraordinaire. Hey Kevin, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Oh no, look, I'm on the wrong side.
We're flipped.
This is going to be a hold on. This is going to be a problem.
Okay. All right. Now
there you
go. All right, we're flipped over.
Somebody's going to yell at me in a second in the chat. Like, you're
on
the wrong side.
I just don't want people to accuse me of being a diva. Like I have to be on the left, So like,
this happens. You actually tell me I'm going to be in serious trouble now after this, guys. This is going to be really bad.
So today we've got an exciting show today. We've got Leon Barnard with us today from Balsamiq. So we're going to get him on here in a few minutes. And
it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be awesome. We're going to learn a lot about UX, UI design, and using a tool that I use, Balsamiq, which is the reason I reached out to him. It's just that I like the tool. I've used it for years, and it's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, so, very cool. So what did you do over the weekend? Anything fun?
I ate some hot dogs yesterday.
Okay.
Went off the diet, ate hot dogs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot. They're not on the diet. You have buns?
Yeah, I do have hot dog buns.
Wow, you did the whole thing.
I have a hookup.
An actual legit hot dog.
So like, but one thing I did over the week, we were talking about over the weekend, I played Destiny over the weekend. And so like trying to get into a Destiny raid is a challenge sometimes. And I was trying to get a raid group together. And I got these guys in there, and the immediate guy said, "Hold on a second, let me purchase the game." And so he purchased it.
So you're with a bunch of pros at that point.
Yeah. So it didn't work out.
So you didn't do it.
No, we didn't finish. We got all the way to the end, and then we didn't finish. But
he's like, "Hold on a minute, how does this work again?"
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't want to be the one of those guys that like know what to do guy, or like you must have 20x clears. We'll go to raid report and figure you out. So I don't want to do that. So it's kind of
you got to teach people at some point. Hey, Ronnie. Hey, good to see you. He's been playing Destiny 2 on PC. I'm going to try it on PC. Speaking of,
good on PC.
Yeah, and
especially
it's free on
PC. Especially if you like aimbots and Crucible, it's awesome.
So you're saying I need to download an aimbot to get good at this?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to win in trials, get an aimbot. So
okay, that's probably true. Speaking of PC, look what came today for me. It arrived in the mail. This
the sweet new rig.
Take a picture. So it arrived today. So I haven't hooked it up yet. So
still got your Apple motif going on. I see black and white.
I do. Still with the black and white. It looks super clean and nice. So yeah, that arrived today. So I'll be playing Destiny 2 on the PC soon as well.
Cool. I'm gonna have to get it.
So I'm excited about that. It's gonna be good. Back to keyboard and mouse days from the controller. I played with the controller for a long time. So
I'll probably still use controller on PC. I think.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And I may too. I don't know. I got a keyboard and mouse, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But let's say hey to some people first before we go on here. Glenn's back. Adam's here. Our moderator. Don't mess with Adam.
Yeah.
Beth is here. Hey, Beth. Wilfredo's here. David's here. Hey, David.
What's a poppin', David?
Kirash is here. Maverick's back with that cool Tesla logo. I like that. Yep. Betty's here waving at us.
Hey, Betty.
Frankie's here. Dunamis is here. Oh, that's cool. Let me see. I like your logo there. Your icon. That's cool.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. So it's cool. Here you go. Tech with Estevans is so pumped for this UX interview. This is going to be people want to talk about this stuff.
It's pretty cool. I mean, like what he's going to show you, I think you're going to learn a lot. So it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm excited about it. So I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot of stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. And yes, NXZT case and build. I had them build me one.
Yeah. So NXT, in my opinion, are one of the best gaming rig builders out there. And like we said, the only reason I'm mad at NZXT is I can't buy an H1. So
if you go to their website right now, like 90% of their stuff is out of stock. Yeah. You can't even buy like fan covers, nothing. Obviously, they're having a coronavirus has caused an issue with the pipeline for stuff from Asia. So I'm guessing that's what it is.
I would get NXT. I'd get the H1 immediately if it would come available. So
yeah, like I said, they came in last Wednesday for about a minute, and then they sold out.
1 minute.
Yeah, it literally was that fast. So yeah.
So we got some meme reviews today. Why don't we do some meme reviews?
We're going to do one meme review.
And show your hot title.
Before we get to Leon here. Yeah, so I built this thing last week, and then we never got around to using it. So I built a little bumper for our memes. So here you go.
That's hot.
Yes, it ends with an explosion. It's literally hot. It ends with an explosion.
End with an explosion to be good.
I might make everything now end with an explosion.
Yeah, that's it. You make me
I think
happy.
that'd be cool. I think that'd be cool. So here's the meme we're going to share. It's a meme that is literally already out of date.
Exactly. So like you guys out there that want to make a really hot meme, you want to be right onto it. Change that Xamarin Forms there to .NET MAUI. So that's
Xamarin Forms is now over here. Xamarin Forms is now the current girlfriend. .NET MAUI is now the
new girlfriend.
Now the chick working by.
You're checking them out. So like check out check out .NET MAUI.
I like that one. I like that one. So if somebody wants to fix that for me, I'll put that up. If somebody fixes it before the end of the show and posts it in memes, I'll put it up.
Yeah.
If I remember to check.
All right, cool.
Okay, so let's bring Leon.
Let me introduce Leon real quick. And Leon is a designer, writer, and now he's an educator at Balsamiq. He's been doing this for 10 years as a UX designer, and he helps teach user interface design basics and wireframing to Balsamiq's audience of mostly non-designers. His interests include wireframing, UX, front-end development, and remote working. And the common thread in all of his work, as you'll see when you meet him, is that he wants to help people and technology get along better. So, Leon, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm really excited to be here. Really enjoying watching these lately. You guys are a lot of fun.
Okay, thanks. We try. So, this totally started by accident. COVID forced us to do this, and people keep coming up. So keep showing up. So we're gonna keep doing it. So
exactly.
Silver lining.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
So what can we tell us a little bit about your origin story? How did you get to where you're at? How did you break in and kind of, tell us a little bit about you. What's your origin story?
So I'm I got into UX design 15 years ago, a long time ago. And I just really liked it. It was kind of at the intersection of design and technology, psychology, all these areas. It just kind of clicked with me. So I started doing it early on. But in a way, there were parts of it that I wasn't very good at, mostly like the design aspect of it, using Photoshop and making things look really pretty. So when this tool Balsamiq came out in 2008 is when I started using it, and when I was doing UX design, and I really loved it because I was able to communicate my ideas without having to be a really good designer or really good on the visual side of things. So I kind of just used it a lot and got better at UX design, and then at a certain point decided that I wanted to move out of the day-to-day parts of UX design, and I didn't necessarily want to become a manager. So that's when I joined Balsamiq as kind of an in-house UX subject matter expert. So
cool.
I started out writing documentation for it. I've done a lot of support for it. And then now we have our small little education team that's basically dedicated to helping people who are not designers learn the basics of UI design and wireframing, and really targeting people, like you said, who are not designers by training.
Us coders aren't designers at all. We struggle really hard. Like sometimes
we see that a lot.
Like way too many buttons on a page, I think, is the common thing to see.
Right. And that's the tricky thing about some of these design tools that are really easy to use, is that you can kind of get lured into thinking that because it's easy to use, it's going to be a good design, but you can still create something pretty crappy with it. So you kind of help nudge people kind of in the right direction.
Okay, cool. I think you had a question, Kevin. You wanted to ask.
I did. So I see this a lot, but what's the difference between UX and UI?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of I thought of a good example recently. So the user interface is a subset of user experience design. So the user experience can be it's much broader. So it can be what happens when you get to the website. It can include things like performance, and the text that you use. User interface design is a little bit more akin to like graphic design and using good layout principles, thinking about what colors to use, and kind of concepts like hierarchy and the structure of how things are laid out, and and it's maybe more focused on where your eye goes.
Okay.
But user experience is is really looking at the problem that somebody's trying to solve. So you could have, I'm sure you've seen lots of examples of like really pretty interfaces that are terrible to use because they don't actually do what you want them to do, or they're really slow or whatever. So, one classic example is like Craigslist. Like, it looks like crap, but everybody uses it because it allows you to do what you want to do really quickly. So that's kind of a good user experience, even if it's not a good user interface.
Right. I think another one is like that I saw the other day. Someone showed me Warren Buffett's site for his investment group. It's like, it looks like it's straight out of GeoCities. I mean, like,
oh really?
Yeah, it's ugly, but I guess his point was, I just want to throw some. It really looks like Craigslist almost, but like it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that would be a good example.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Well, show us what you got, and let's teach us something about UX and UI design today.
Sure. So I wanted to do a little demo of Balsamiq, but I also wanted to make sure that I was, teaching something about it as well. So I'm going to attempt to do a demo of Balsamiq, but also teach some good wireframing principles as well to help you not only design interfaces, but design them well. So what we came up with a while ago is kind of these 5 steps to creating great wireframes. And really, the foundation of it is that if you start out in the wrong place, you're going to end up in the wrong place. So I think a big mistake that a lot of people do is they just start building the interface right away, and maybe have something in your mind, and you feel like you know exactly what you need to build, but you might end up solving the wrong problem, and that's the biggest mistake that you want to avoid. And so think of a wireframing tool, even though it's a design tool, and I'll open it up the way most people see it, with kind of this toolbar here with all of these different kind of controls that you can add. And bear in mind that all of these are just purely static images. With a wireframe, you're just creating a picture that you can use to communicate. You're not building anything interactive. And the idea is that you just want something that you can just kind of iterate on quickly, and then just to get you to a good starting point. But I created a little sample problem that we could start with. And this first step I call articulate, which is just, like I said here too, articulate the problem using words and pictures. And just think of this as kind of your sandbox, your scratch pad, where you're, and even just use some text and just write down, okay, what is it that I'm trying to build? Who am I building it for? What are they trying to do with it? And what are some of the tasks that they're going to create? And then maybe I go and I'll start by doing a sitemap, and I'll say, okay, I'm building something for the editor. They want to create a post. They want to edit a post. And then in Balsamiq, a lot of stuff is done with text, which is kind of nice. It's kind of programmer friendly because it's created by a programmer, kind of a nerdy way. So I want a title, syntax for that. The nice thing is if you forget how to do something, you can just look at it like this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so all of it has kind of these hints there. So yeah, I've got my editor. They want to create a post. I need a title. Maybe I'll put in the URL slug, and then content, some tags. So I might just kind of start out with something like that, just to, kind of visual reminder of like what I'm actually building. And then I'm going to move on to step 2, which is generate. And this is really where you get to play designer, and you try to be creative. And your idea here is just that whole creative thing, like remove any judgment and just, don't think too much. And you just want to add, it's this kind of divergent phase where there's no bad ideas, that whole thing. And one tip I have is a lot of people, they want it to look like something right away. So they'll add they'll start with the browser window and they'll ask, how big should this be? How many pixels? And they'll start thinking in that way right away. But inevitably, you're going to be resizing this container as you add stuff. So I just think like start inside out. So start with the content start with the content and then add the frame and the browser and stuff like that. So I'm going to add a label. I'm going to call this the title. And then I'm going to duplicate this. Let's do the slug. I'll duplicate this. So maybe my first idea is I'm going to build something that looks a little bit like, like WordPress, because that's what I've seen before.
Okay.
So I'm going to do these. I'm going to add, and a lot of the elements are aliased to different things. So if I want to do a text input thing, I can do input, type text. So I'm going to do a text input, and then there, kind of alignment guides for snapping.
Right.
Just like here, I'm going to do a text box, text area. Do that here.
Oh, I like the little alignment tools too. That's cool.
Yeah, it's handy. And then let's see if I have I got one of these little toolbar things here. So let's better give ourselves a little Wysiwyg editor.
Oh, yeah, man.
And then, and you're not worrying too much about the visuals, getting everything just right. You just kind of want to see some stuff on the screen. And then let's see. Let's do a button here for. Try to put some stuff over here. If I'm thinking about like WordPress, so now now I'm going to open up this kind of inspector panel where I can change some of these properties. So this is a shape control. Let's try to make it a little rounded button here, and then I'm going to send this to the back.
So now you're into a little bit of like Photoshop style controlling.
Right. And you'll see there's not too much stuff here. We don't really let you mess around with colors and fonts too much. And all of it, the nice thing is that all of it is UI specific. So there are some general controls like shapes, but if you add a button, it allows you to turn it into like one of these menu buttons. You can change the state, but you're not gonna. There's not a lot of other properties that don't apply. And let's see, I add another little label here. I'm gonna call this my tags. And you can see here, I don't know exactly what else is going to go in here, but I just know that, okay, this is going to be a little area where I might have some, actions. I'm going to do a checkbox group here. Let's say I want my tags to be checkboxes. And then again, when you add something, it shows you kind of how to use it. So this is kind of very nerdy almost. We use some stuff, we borrow some stuff from Markdown too. So if you bring up the text thing, you'll see that you can use Markdown with the brackets. You can use bold and italics with some Markdown syntax.
That's cool.
There's even a few things borrowed from programming. So if you do a /R, it will put it on another line. So, some kind of regex kind of stuff. So I'm going to leave this alone here because this is kind of enough for me to think of one idea. So I'm going to close this top part again. I'm going to zoom out again, and then I'm going to have another idea. Well, what if I want to get a little more modern with this, and I just wanted kind of a edit. I wanted the editor and the viewer to look similar. So I'm going to create some. So this is there's also, you can kind of use this squiggle font, and if I hold down some of the keys, it will let me draw something. So I'm holding down the R key here, and that's going to let me draw a rectangle. If I hold down the T key and do this, it's just going to be a block of text. So let's say we want to do this kind of medium style, where you're editing, where the the text is the editor kind of, and then let's do another one of these, and that's gonna do, I don't know, save and publish. Maybe I'm gonna make this kind of a secondary button and a primary button.
Yep.
Put it at the top of the page, maybe some other stuff, and then I'm gonna do a little, try to create a little popover widget. So if I'm editing the text, this is how I'm gonna edit the text instead. And I'm gonna try to put this little toolbar thing inside here and see what happens. I don't know. What if it's kind of like this, and so really you want to create like a conversation starter. So I'm going to group these together, and I'm just going to put this here. I'm going to draw a little box around here, show that I've got a word highlighted here. I'm going to give this let's give this a little bit of a bright color. This color, yeah, these are all the colors we give you. You can't actually type in hex values because everybody kept asking, oh, we want more colors. It's like, okay. One of the keys of here's one of the differences between UI and UX is that with UX, you want the most frequent things to be easy, and then the other things, what's the phrase? Make the common tasks easy and the other things a little bit more challenging. So that's not really a UI design issue. So it's like the primary use case is I want to pick from a basic color palette. So that's easy. Right. I can use my mouse. I can bring it up. The advanced use case is I'm going to put in hex values, and I don't even remember if you can.
Right.
And then so that's there. It's possible, but it's not. We're not. Kind of inviting that, so that's kind of a
because
way.
One of the things that you're trying to do at this point is not get hung up on colors, right?
Exactly.
It's by intent. It's not because you didn't want to give everybody the colors. It's just because you don't want to get hung up on colors. It's part of the problem.
Right. One of our classic things forever, people were asking for like rotation. They want us to be able to rotate everything, buttons and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we're not going to do that because you probably don't need to rotate a button. And if you do, just make a little note. So you can rotate some things like shapes and whatever, but
right.
So I'm just going to do something here, and really you're just kind of trying to convey the idea behind something rather than the whole UI. So here's the generate phase. I've got two kind of separate ideas. Maybe I'll do them on different wireframes. Maybe I'll just do it all in one. Just draw a line here to say this is these are kind of separate concepts, and that way I can sometimes if you get some vague requirements, the boss or the product manager says, we need a CMS, we're going to build it from scratch. And that's all, That's when
right.
you go
so you have to take inspiration from somewhere.
Right. And that's when you go back and you say, okay, well, what's the goal here? Is this, who's going to be using this? Are these technical people? Are these just anybody, and then if they say, I don't know, then you come up and say, okay, here's some different concepts. What do you think? And that's when you move on to this next phase of iterating, which means both refining the design and also starting to involve a smaller circle of people. Mm-hmm. So maybe, you bring it back to the kind of the stakeholder, the product owner or whatever, and they say, oh, I really like this one on the right. This feels more modern, more interesting. So maybe I'll bring this over into, in kind of the iteration phase. And then maybe I'll think about, okay, what are these actions here? Maybe I'm going to use, I'm going to get rid of all these toolbar options, and I'm just gonna do a couple. Let's see if I got one for italic. We use the Font Awesome font icon set, so it's got all the icons that are in Font Awesome. Which
I noticed there's a lot of things you can pull into this. I mean, there's hundreds, right? There's a lot of different UI things you have in here.
Yeah, I think there's close to 100 of them in there in different categories. So we got mobile. Some generic ones. The common ones are and there's some generic ones too, like the shape. So if you don't have the specific control, you can build it yourself. And also, like, if it's not in here, maybe you shouldn't be using it. Like why building custom controls?
That's a good point.
Just to be unique. Maybe can you do this with a standard control is maybe a good thing to be asking yourself. So I'm going to make these smaller. So I'm going to ungroup this pop-up. I'm going to get rid of this. And then I'll put these together. Maybe I'll do a border around these to make them look like buttons. So I'm going to put these in the pop-up and say, okay, we're going to go a little simpler than that. We're not going to give you all these options. Let's see if there's one for a heading. Yeah, sure, let's do this. So let's say, okay, here's your 4 options. You can format it this way. You can make it a heading. That's all you can do. So and I can refine from this. I can take inspiration from other things. I can whatever. This is kind of just an idea for the iteration phase. And then you think, how am I going to do tags? Maybe I'll do a combo box here, because I had that that's where I go back to here and say, oh yeah, I remember that I want people to be able to edit tags.
Right.
So it's like now I gotta build that. How am I gonna do that? And then the 4th step is to communicate. So basically, you can build a design, on your screen, but it's not really worth anything until it gets out there. So you got to communicate with people, and the idea is, you want more feedback, but you also, there's going to be, one of the things with wireframes is it's not going to include all of the details. So rather than spending the time and getting everything pixel perfect and building all the interactions, just use words or emails, or talk to people. Oh, this is going to look like this. So there's a whole category in here on markup, and this is stuff that you just want. Get a list of tags from marketing, kind of like, just put little sticky notes on there. Don't worry about all the details. And this is so this markup category is going to kind of help you with this communication.
So does the tool allow for collaboration too then? Can I collaborate with somebody on this?
It does, yeah. So it has kind of Google Docs like permissions, so I can add other people as editors. I can allow public reviews, or there's also, let me show you what this review and comment mode looks like. So this is going to be where it's basically read-only, but I can add comments. So I can add a call out and say, what does this mean? Or I can invite people, for example. So yeah, it's got all that stuff, and so you can involve people who aren't doing the design work. You can you have multiple people editing, but you can also have some people who are just reviewing.
I'm guessing those reviewers don't have to have the application. They don't have to have a license or anything.
Correct.
Cool.
And this is for the cloud-hosted version, right?
Yeah, so this is the cloud version. We just released the new desktop version, which is a full rewrite, and so it can open projects locally, but it can also open your cloud projects as well.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. The last step is validate, and this is not something you're going to do as much in the wireframing tool, but it's really just there as a reminder to take a few minutes before you hand this off or before you start building it, and really go back and talk to go back to the original problem statement, maybe show it to the stakeholders or the client or whatever, and just say, is this actually building, is this actually solving the problem that we stated up front? Sometimes what you do is you fall in love with your design a little bit, and you start to really enjoy building it, and wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And you just kind of start to get off track slowly without really realizing it. And so it's just there to really remind you, wait, take a look at what you've built, and let's actually make sure that, this is kind of your last checkpoint before you go into code when things get a lot more expensive and time consuming to fix. So just take a minute to go back and make sure that you're that you're really solving the problem rather than just having fun building a user interface.
And I think too, because I use this quite a lot, Leon, and a lot of people are asking questions, but like you can also build in some interactivity between the different views if you want to have like follow a workflow.
That's true. Yeah.
You just click through the buttons and link them all together.
Yep. So most of our controls, you can add links. So you can add links to all your other wireframes. You can link to a web address. And then we've got this like full screen view with kind of this big arrow thing, and it's very much made for like showing in a meeting or something. So you can so now you can do it where you're like presenting, but also for user testing where it looks more like the actual interface, and you can have people click on things. So yeah, it's got all that to it. Yeah, you can link things together, and then you could export it as a PDF, and the links work to send it around if you want to show the the flow of things.
All right. Okay, cool.
That's very cool. So is somebody was asking, so Adobe XD, is that a competing product to this, or is it a step after this?
Yes and no. That tool is definitely made more for UX designers. So that's there's a distinction between wireframes and prototypes, and a prototype is where you're really trying to build something that looks and feels like the real thing. So you can do wireframes in XD, but you can also do a lot more, which is nice because it allows you to do everything. But the drawback is that then the temptation is there
to do everything.
do everything, yeah.
Right.
So there's overlap. You can do wireframing in XD, but it's really kind of more optimized for people who do user interface and UX design as a job. So they're maybe going to do wireframing, they're going to do the prototyping, they're going to do more of the pixel perfect stuff, maybe generating the CSS code, but our main audience is not designers. It's like product managers, maybe freelance developers, people who are really more in the idea stage, and not thinking so much about doing pixel perfect kind of high fidelity work.
Yeah, so because I'm working on my mobile project right now. Hopefully next month we'll be able to talk about it. But like we started off with one of the guys started off with Proto or something like that, and I'm like, hold on a second, we need to like take a step back and like let's look at like how it's going to work. I don't really care how it looks at this point. I just want to know if we've got the problem solved correctly, because I'm more important. I think wireframing is way more important than people think. A lot of times you go straight to making it look cool, but then you don't have the workflow right, and then you have to and changing CSS, HTML, and all that kind of stuff is way harder to do than going back and you're changing Balsamiq, where you can just like delete something and then just wire it back, and and just how do you coach customers on that aspect?
I mean, that's a big part of what I do. I mean, we have our whole new like education site now. It's called Balsamiq Wireframing Academy. I wrote an article about 5 steps to creating great wireframes, which really goes through everything I talked about. And we have videos. We have some courses about interface design. So just trying to talk people through the way that we view and approach wireframing, and approach the design process, because really this doesn't apply just to wireframing, but just kind of it's a design philosophy. So we're just trying to reach people every way that we can, writing stuff, creating videos. We do live wireframing sessions for nonprofits. So we give our product away for free to nonprofits and open source and do-gooders, and with that you can schedule a 1-hour call with us and show us your ideas, and we'll help you kind of wireframe it. And so that's been a really useful process too, to help people who really haven't done this before get started. So we have a whole bunch of videos here's one I did with a couple in Montreal who are building an app for farmers market vendors.
Cool.
So it's can't reach everyone, but we're just trying to preach our philosophy as much as we can.
Yeah, it looks like you guys have a lot of cool content up there. I put the link, or actually, I think Adam ended up putting the link down in chat. You guys can go on there. I'll actually link down in the description too at the end of the video, so it'll be down there if you guys want to check it out. And somebody was asking, looks like some of your colleagues are here too. That's cool. Somebody asked, John was asking, for the desktop version is $89 for that version with no updates, which is not true. Francis already answered that. On this one, actually.
We got the
there you go, a new version roughly every 4 years.
That's the CEO, Heldy, right there with the puppy, with the dog.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I will say this: I've used Balsamiq.
You've used this a lot, right?
A lot. So, like, I don't know how long I use it. I may have been one of the first customers on it. I would say that it's been a long time. But like for years, I never bought another version because I mean, like, you guys are like amazing in that regard. Like, you know, yeah, they feel bad about it. Like, do I need to update this thing? I mean, like, you know, so I'm still on the old Adobe Air, so I'm getting ready to upgrade to the brand new one. And I've always liked the desktop version. I don't know why. I've just liked it. So,
but now you have the cloud port built in too, so you get the best of both.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always preferred the desktop version until the cloud one came out, which was actually much faster. Then we all started using that one, and then now the desktop version is faster too. But yeah, we went about 10 years without any upgrade pricing. So your license from 2008 would take you all the way through 2019 to the end of the last year.
I've been using it for a long time. I would say it's pretty close to around 08 when I got on it, maybe 09. So like I've used it a long time. So like talk about like how do you, like when we were talking about colors, and I know people said what's so hard about colors, just talk about the danger of doing that in the like the wireframing stage, and like what can happen to a project when you kind of mix the wireframe with starting to get an implementation, and you're talking to project stakeholders, like maybe it's the boss or it's the, you know, what happens in those projects sometimes. Yeah,
that's an excellent question, because that there's really kind of two phases of wireframing. The one is where you're trying to build the user interface, and it's kind of like, it's kind of for yourself and you're kind of in design mode. But then, you know, that whole like handoff, that process between the design and implementation is a whole, you know, anyone who's worked in software knows that a lot of stuff can go wrong there.
Right.
And, you know, and what you're trying to do, what you want to do is get people focused on the right parts of it.
Right.
So if you start to make it look too much like the real thing, either two things will happen. One, somebody will like just say, okay, it looks good to me, you know, because it looks like the real thing. It doesn't, you don't want to give feedback on it because it's like, oh, it looks fine. And you're not really thinking about the detailed interactions or the workflows. The other thing is that people started to get fixated on the wrong things, you know, so you start to introduce colors, or you put in a gradient or whatever, and they're like, oh, I don't like that gradient, or oh, that's not on brand. Right. You know, and so you're fixating on colors that, you know, first of all are easily changed later, and second of all, don't matter nearly as much for the user experience. You know, it's more a question of, should that button be there in the first place, or, you know, wait a minute, how are they going to get from that screen to this screen? You know, you want to you know, invite conversation and discussion around the things that matter most, and, you know, when you can change them, that are going to be hard to change later. So you start introducing fonts and colors and things, and that's what people are going to look at and go to and give feedback on. So you want people to give feedback on the right things.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so cool, because I've been in meetings where we discussed the blue color for like an hour, and I'm like, what are we doing, dude? Like,
I was gonna say, your comment sounded like it came from experience, like you've been down this road.
Like, I don't care what color the buttons are at this point. Like, can you just tell me if you like how it flows, you know? And they're like, well, our color is this. I'm like, I get it, but you know.
There you go. Dave the Dev says, those are great points. I see those happen all the time when I present designs.
Yeah. And so, like, I think for me, Leon, it's like, if you can get them to sign off on your wireframe, then you have actually a better chance to get in the UX through like the design phase, because they've already committed to like how it's going to work. And then it's easy. Then you're like, oh, I don't like this blue. And so like, then it's a really easy discussion. Okay, let me modify the CSS file at that point, or the proto, or whatever you're using to do that. Yeah.
And rather than worrying about that stuff in the beginning and getting all that CSS right from the beginning and then handing it off, is like, well, let's worry about that later, you know?
Right.
Or what I've done before, and I really am a big proponent of, is using wireframes with like design systems. So if you already have a style guide or design system, and you know what color your primary buttons are, and how your drop downs are styled or whatever, like don't even bother make them try to look like the real thing in the design phase, because they're just going to add that CSS class, primary button or whatever, and you just have to indicate it somehow. This is our primary button. This is our secondary one. This is our H1. This is our H2. You don't have to worry exactly about getting the font size just right. Just basically identify what CSS class it's going to be, because it's not like they're going to be writing that code by hand. They're just going to be applying something that already exists. Yeah. So just pair something really bare bones with the code in the background that's going to make it look like it should, rather than trying to approximate it and doing something in between. And then you're like, that's when you've got different colors because they took the color from the design, and then it doesn't match with the
right. It's not Coder Foundry orange, as we say. Like we have an orange, we do. But when we look at stuff, I mean, if Kevin's micing up, sometimes he does have a style guide, but sometimes like, oh, here's the orange. It's going to be orange, and we both know like
we know what it's going to be.
There's a certain orange, but like in the tool, you're just picking one of the oranges because it doesn't really matter. It just says, oh, it's we know it's going to be orange, but we're
right. And you can have a process. When I make anything remotely orange, that means Coder Foundry.
Yeah, exactly. It's Coder Foundry orange.
Bring up the inspector and hover over it.
It's not Harley Davidson orange. It's the Coder Foundry orange. So, yeah. All right, cool. Let's see. We got any questions from the crowd here? Let's see what we got here.
Let me look here. I don't know if you know anything about. Let me see here.
And I can talk about other stuff too. I can talk about UX. I can talk about,
So I thought TechLesman had a good little summary that he's sort of asking about this. Essentially, this tools allow you to centralize Medium for organizing all of your ideas for a project, like a step above typical note-taking apps, but not for pixel-perfect UI.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I mean, really, we're just trying to replicate pencil and paper, but for people who aren't good at drawing, and then you get the advantages of being able to copy and paste and export and all that stuff. So it's much more, kind of low fidelity, in the idea of it. It's just a place for you to write down and draw out, sketch out your ideas, with the intention of communicating them to somebody else. Like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Let's put our heads together on this, and kind of flesh out all this stuff that's going to bite us, that would otherwise bite us later.
That is something that I do like about the tool too. I like the rough edges, and I like the fact that it, like the squiggle line, it's obviously not, it represents content. It's an obvious way of representing content, but it allows you to like step away from the what it is and just see it as an element on a page. I like that. I think it's cool.
What it allows for me is to sometimes remove the whiteboard element. So like, when you're in a whiteboard meeting, you're just kind of marking it up, and then someone has to take a picture with their iPhone, and then this like 10 meg JPEG rolls around, and you're like zooming in on it. It's really hard. That makes it really difficult, even though that's easy to do. Balsamiq kind of fits in the middle where like it's a little more time consuming than a whiteboard, but you can move it around and show people, and then it's easily changed, God forbid someone erase your whiteboard in the middle of a design session, that's been up there for 4 weeks or something,
Yeah, I mean,
for example.
Yeah,
it's never happened to me.
You mentioned Adobe XD as a competitor. I would say that whiteboards are a bigger competitor for us. That's another user experience concept, is this idea of like friction. Like, what's the quickest way that I can get something down? Yeah. And whiteboard marker, you start drawing. We're really trying to figure out how can we get it so that going to Balsamiq is easier than going to a whiteboard, or that's your first instinct, because it's like, okay, if I start building digitally, then I know that I'll be able to use it more easily later. But it's like, just grabbing a pen and scribbling, that's a great user experience right there, So that's
just hard to like share with people, especially if you're working remote. I mean, it's just like, it's next to impossible.
Yeah.
Unless you get like some kind of like special whiteboard that, I mean, they make those, but then you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars, and everyone has to have it. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, exactly.
So MSV is asking, well, he actually says, for me, colors are the hard part. You have any tips on color schemes?
There's I started following this Twitter account that just every day they tweet a color scheme palette.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
Yeah. Then
I like that.
There's tons of stuff in there online about how to find color schemes. I mean, honestly, at a lot of companies, that's something that a marketing or branding department would do, and then you have a style guide or a design system or something like that. We have some stuff on our site about user interface design, basics. You can learn things like there's some visual design principles like learning about contrast.
Oh, that's cool.
Proximity, kind of like basic user interface design things. So here's an example of like a form with low contrast versus high contrast. This is kind of UI design stuff. We don't get too much into colors because there's, if you Google UI design course, you'll find a lot. There's color theory. What do these colors mean psychologically? What how they're used and what they mean in different cultures. It's really quite a rabbit hole. I'm not the right person to be asking about color.
I know for me, like colors, I definitely go with a color palette. I'll choose a color scheme from somewhere and start with that for sure. I don't just start with a blank slate. I use Adobe products a lot, so I'll use their things, the Adobe color products, and I'll go in there. And if I choose a primary color, it'll give me like the tertiary colors or whatever color scheme I'm going with, and I do that. And there's a bunch of tools online to do that. You don't want to be picking 5 colors just from the air. It is going to look bad. Even if you're a designer, it's generally going to look bad.
Some people have the talent for that, but most of us don't.
Most do not.
Some people can just see it, and then they're the ones that can do that stuff. But the color theory wheel itself is like, if you want to do that, that's
well, it works.
It just works.
There's science behind it. It's you can.
Yep. There we go.
Now we got a feature request. We already got a feature request, Leon.
We cool use a Surface Pen with Balsamiq. I'm assuming you can, right, to a certain extent. Isn't it like a mouse on a thing?
I don't know. I've never tried.
Like to recognize the component you're drawing and generate it in place. Okay, that's interesting.
We've talked about ideas like this for a long time. And then so that's kind of where this idea of these shortcuts for holding down controls, so where you're kind of drawing controls by holding down a key and using your mouse came from. It's the closest that we've come to that. We have had a few kind of skunkworks projects over the years trying to do stuff like that. It's not the primary use case. We're still a pretty small team after all these years, so we're trying to focus on performance and stability and kind of the collaboration and stuff like that. But it's in our backlog somewhere. We are working on building in some touch support for iPads.
The problem with Surface Pen or even the pen from Apple, it's like you don't know when that's going to go away. Like Microsoft can announce, "Hey, we don't want to use the Surface Pen anymore," and it's gone. And then you're like, you invested, 20,000 hours in trying to make Balsamiq work with that, and just that's probably the main reason. That's why, if I was running the company, that's why I would avoid it. So I don't know how long this thing can be around.
This is true, and they do change the technologies too.
Same with Apple too. I mean, they may get rid of the iPad Pro. I mean, just say we're not doing that anymore.
We say no to a lot of features. That's and everybody's asking, why don't you add interactivity? Why don't you add all the stuff that XD has? And our founder Peldy, his goal has always been just to have a small little niche product. We're not trying to take over the world. We're 10, 12 years old now, and we're still under 35 people. All bootstrap, profitable since day one. No VC funding, all that stuff. So we're just, just trying to have a little space on the internet, not trying to take over the world.
But I think it's cool. I do. I mean, I really think, and that's not because I just use it or that you're just here. Like, there is like the whole learning curve into Balsamiq I think is very small. And then when you go into XD, even though I do this for a living, you go into XD and like the first day you open up, you're like, oh, what is this? Like
it does seem daunting.
All right, I'm just gonna go back and like mark this up in Balsamiq. Even with all the other kind of pixel perfect wireframe or the UX design kits, to me, once I got my wireframe, I could skip XD and just go into VS Code, and I'm more at home there than I am with XD anyway. And I feel like, in my opinion, that those tools are in the middle of where I'm going anyway. So like, and I definitely don't want them to generate HTML for me or anything like that. Or in a lot of cases, if I'm doing mobile, they can't generate that anyway. So like, I've got to go straight to XAML or something like that to build it out. So
yeah, that was one of our first like big feature requests when we started. Is if only I could export this to HTML. And it's like, if you only knew like sure, we could make it work for 80% of the cases pretty good, but but those other 20%, they're going to be a mess. Or you go back to the web page editors of the 90s, or Microsoft Front Page or whatever. And you just look at the code they generate. It's just it's disgusting. It's horrific. And so it's just like we're not even going to try to go there. But I love the idea of developers using a tool like Balsamiq, and then it's like, as you're designing, you know how that's going to code, so you just jump straight to your editor and start building it. Right. Especially if you designed it yourself, so you have it in mind and you just jump straight to code. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, and I've even done things like I'll whiteboard something, then I'll take the whiteboard into Balsamiq, and then once I have it in Balsamiq, I can hand that off to the devs or whatever. And then they can start coding it up in VS Code or Visual Studio, whatever you're going to do. All right, cool.
John B has a good suggestion for creative palettes too. Color Hunt, I think it's colorhunt.co. Okay. I think I've been there before too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Adobe Color, Color Hunt. There's a bunch.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them. There's a good place. I don't know if you know about the Flutter UI SDK. What do you think about Flutter UI SDK?
Implementation, in my opinion. So
yeah. Just started learning it. It was a third sort of apps had a better looking UI.
Yeah, that's just a UI kit.
I've
that's
not
like way down the road. Like you're putting controls on the page at that point. So like so I think that's way down the road.
Let me see. Here's a question, Victor. I don't know if this is too much of a general question. What are some key development tips for UI UX? That's pretty broad.
I mean, I like the question. So let's see. Does that mean from the developer's perspective? Is that what I should?
I would guess so.
Yeah. I would say, you're really trying to think about what problem am I trying to solve. It's not the first question that pops into your mind. Because you want to start building, you're thinking about the visuals, but really just take a minute and write down some words or build a little sitemap and look at the flow and really try to give yourself some time before you jump into anything that's going to be in the user interface. And just, do a sitemap, do a little flow diagram, and ask a lot of questions, especially people will come to you with the feature in their head already built. Our customers say that they need this, go build it. And your first instinct is to just do that. And so, just go back, and I would say, because that's really where things go wrong, is that you're like, okay, what we need to do is we need to build this feature. But really, no, what you need to do is you need to solve somebody's problem, or even look at like, well, how many people are asking about this? Is this just one, squeaky wheel who's really asking for this one feature that nobody else is going to use, or it's going to make other things complicated? Think of the implications of it. And, maybe the best UI is one that doesn't need to get built at all, or maybe it's something that can be handled by your support team, or maybe the language on your website is unclear, and they have different expectations or something like that. So, the less you can end up building, the better, because in most cases you're just adding features onto something else. And so really take a minute and think about whether that feature needs to be built already, or if you can, rather than just build a new feature, like, can you modify a different one so it's not just kind of this kludge of like something built on something else. So
like Salesforce.
yeah. So,
I'm sorry for Salesforce if you're watching.
Salesforce does feel that way.
I just killed the sponsorship for our shows.
Salesforce is never gonna sponsor us now, never.
But like, it does feel like it's like got like rows of buttons, rows of menus on top of other rows, and I know there's a lot of features in there, but it just feels like it's not super streamlined. Because they're just.
You know what I just noticed this morning. Actually, I was just staring out the window. I was looking at the telephone pole across the street. You ever take a minute to really look at those?
Oh yeah.
Software project for me. It's got the phone, it's got the internet, it's got the power, and everything's built on top of something else. Because you can't just you can't just take something down and everybody's without power for a week and put on a new version. But so it's got these fancy looking like Wi-Fi antenna looking things that are obviously new, and then it's got some old school stuff with these like patch cables, and then there's pieces of wood like nailed in there. I mean, the wires come out everywhere. Like that, that's what building software is like. And so you got to think about. You don't want your software to end up like that. So before you add another,
very, very true.
Yeah, but what amazes me in North Carolina, we have like massive ice storms every year, and these power lines and all always falling down, and they keep putting them back up. I'm like, someone please dig a hole and put that in the ground. Like, please. They do it in neighborhoods now, but they won't do it on the street. I have no idea why.
Yeah, it's right. My neighborhood. So I live in a new neighborhood. All the lines are buried, but if you go to the street that feeds the neighborhood is still on a pole. And you're right, it looks just like you're saying. It is literally built on. And like if you were going to run it today, there's probably 2 wires on that thing, but because it's been built on, there's 100 attached to it.
You feel like the old telegraph wires are still there, where you could like pound them out.
I think they are. I think they are still there.
So just think about that when you're building something. This feature is going to be here in 10 years,
right?
And it's going to be way outdated. So build it right, or don't build it at all.
Yep. There you go. Adam says above ground power lines equals legacy code. That's it. That's it.
And then we got this one here. He says featureitis is a terrible disease for software. It is.
Yes.
Social distancing, feature distancing. We just need to chill out for a second. So cool.
Okay, we're coming to the top of the hour, so let's wrap this
it's already
up.
been an hour, Leon. That's awesome. Let's just see if we can get one more question for the road here, and we'll let you get out of here.
Let me see. I don't think I do.
Cool. Well, listen to this. I made someone laugh today. So like they laughed at my self-force joke. So like that's good.
Okay. We'll take that. We'll take that any day.
Take that one as a win. So like we'll take it as a win.
Just don't send this to Salesforce. If they ever want to come on as a sponsor, we'll still happily accept them.
Yeah, exactly. We're sorry. So we'll work on that UI. So.
Yes, Leon, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Leon. Thanks for coming on, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a blast. Keep up the good work.
If you want to come back, just let us know. We'd love to have you back on, and we can talk about. And this topic is so broad and wide. I'm sure that a lot of people can learn a lot of things from you. So
yeah, if there's specific things that people want to learn about, I can dive into those too. I'd be happy to.
All right, so everyone go out to Balsamiq. Yeah, and download a copy of Balsamiq today and just check it out. It's really cool. It's inexpensive, and it'll change your projects. I promise you.
Awesome.
All right,
thanks, Leon. Appreciate it.
See you later, Leon. Bye.
Yep, you're on.
All right. Super good.
Super good. Cool. I remember those 5 steps, and sometimes you do it so long, but iterate and then remember those 5 steps as you go to.
Yep. I like the last part coming back to the front again to be like, make sure that like what you mapped out up front, like coming back and make sure that you've actually fulfilled that. That's such an important step that I think a lot of people don't do.
Right. Did we actually complete what we set out to do?
Exactly.
Or did we build entirely something new?
Exactly. Yeah. Super good.
Right. So we got a guest tomorrow. We do.
We have Sean Wildermuth tomorrow.
Sean Wildermuth. All right. So Sean is it's a really cool dude. And he's just a coder of what I would call an everyman coder. Like he is like down in the weeds. Like
we're gonna talk way technical stuff, and I'm gonna be like, what's going on here? Like,
and also he's a .NET guy, so like, so that means we're automatically friends. So like, he's a good guy. He's got a movie coming out. He's a really interesting dude. So I think,
he does. Yeah, maybe we'll show the. I think he has a trailer too, so maybe we'll show that tomorrow.
Yeah,
as part of the talking to him too. So that'll be good.
All right.
I just a couple things here before we go. I like this. Brian jumped in. Hey, Brian, and hey, Brian's mom.
Hey, Brian's mom.
Brian jumped in, and he says, "Good stuff." And then his next message is, "Fun fact: when you're late to a meeting, you say good stuff. No one knows you arrive late."
Okay, all right.
I just thought that was funny. I think you might be a genius, Brian. Yeah. I know you're only 12. You're 12, 13. I think you said you were 12 before. Right. So that, like, I think you're a secret genius, Brian. I think that was super good. And then, hold on, somebody else here. Let me see. Somebody else asked us not to sue them over something. Hold on.
Oh, we don't. We don't want to sue them.
we're not suit happy, so it's okay. I did see it somewhere in the list here, but somebody chose a similar color scheme to ours. They chose like a Coda Foundry orange for their own website.
Oh,
I thought it was pretty funny.
it's kind of cool. Orange is the new black, man. Orange is hot. I like orange. I mean, right now it's just kind of cool. And this one's kind of funny. And let's not forget to be hyped for Thursday.
Oh, we're totally hyped for Thursday. Don't worry, Tech with Esther, man. We're totally hyped
on Thursday.
We do. It's still green lit for Thursday.
Yep.
We're gonna give you guys the exclusive on Thursday, and actually on Thursday too. We're going to give you guys the opportunity to win something too.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have a little giveaway on Thursday.
We'll give away Thursday. So be here. Be here Thursday. But check us out tomorrow with Sean, and I'm sure you'll learn some stuff about .NET in general. So check us out with tomorrow with Sean.
Yep.
All right. See you guys tomorrow. Is that it, Kevin?
That's it. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good luck and keep coding, guys. See you tomorrow.